Welcome, friends, to the My Villain Era podcast. I am Victoria, and today I want to talk to you about something really important. You don't need one more dang pair of shoes. Now, I'm all for the upgrade, but you don't need one more outfit, one more pair of shoes, one more thing that's the dopamine hit to make you feel good. And actually, if you've been doing this for a while, you probably go through this phase where you declutter. You declutter your closet and you have your capsule wardrobe, whatever, and then you overshop again. Or then you are like eating lots of candy and whatever the thing to get the dopamine hit. Shoes aren't actually the problem, they're the symptom. The shoes are hiding what is really going on. The shoes are what all of the stores want you to buy, but really, it's an external thing that's not going to make you feel better. You'll feel better when you have the pair of shoes, right? Then why do you have 5 million pairs of shoes in your closet, right? And I'm using shoes as an example. For some people, they overeat. For some people, they buy jewelry. For some people, it's whatever, right? Like everybody has their own thing. And as someone who has had many pairs of shoes in her life, I can tell you that nothing has made me feel better than working on myself and figuring out what I really want from life rather than buying another pair of shoes that I'm probably going to ditch in 6 months. And if you're watching this, you may be in your villain era. You may not know that you're in your villain era, but maybe you started setting boundaries. Maybe you started saying no. Maybe you started putting yourself first before anybody else. Then you, my friend, are in your villain era, because here's what happens is you put yourself first and people don't like it, especially if you are a people pleaser or a formed people pleaser. You've been making everybody else happy your entire life. I can guarantee. Because if you are a people pleaser now, you are probably a people pleaser when you are 5 years old. The result is different and how it looks is different and what you're getting is different. When you're 5, maybe you're looking for safety or the feeling of security or something like that. If you're a people pleaser now, you want that feeling of love. You want that admiration. You want that acceptance and appreciation. But I hate to tell this to you as someone who has been a people pleaser like forever. One of the most freeing things I did was to no longer give a damn what other people think. And that includes to stop people pleasing, instead pleasing myself, asking myself what I really want, and then following my heart. You see, when you decide that you're going to stop with that kind of behavior, like you're going to set up boundaries and really stick by them, that in itself will make you the bad guy. And that's something that a lot of us don't understand. We were never taught to really love ourselves. We were taught to follow the rules. So when you start to love yourself more than you love the rules, more than you love fitting in, then what happens is some people are uncomfortable about this. Some people are unhappy with the fact that you suddenly don't need that shopping spree. You don't need to go have margaritas and bitch about your life and go shop or whatever. You don't need that because you're finding your inner peace, which is no small feat. So having a life that is entirely yours is possible. And when I say those words, what I mean is doing what you want to do. I'll give you a great example. Vacation. How many of us have felt guilted to go on a certain family vacation, maybe visit family on the holidays? Maybe you've always wanted to go to insert place here. Maybe you've always wanted a white Christmas. Maybe you've always wanted a Christmas in the mountains. Maybe you've always wanted to go to Florida and scuba dive for Christmas, whatever. But you haven't done it. Why? Because of guilt and family expectations. And believe me, I have been there. I have experienced all of this. So when you start to stick up for yourself and you say, you know what? I really love you guys, and I'll see you later in the year. But what I really want to do is I want to go to Florida, and I want to go to that national park that has the manatees that swim under your kayak. You are the bad guy because you're not following the programming. You're not following protocol. And the people in your life, it's not like they're all horrible. It's just they're following their programming. But when was the last time you rewrote your programming? When was the last time you decided, no, I'm going to choose what's right for me? So back to the shoes. Many of us think that when we have that feeling in the pit of our stomach, like maybe something in our life is unfulfilling to us, we need to fill it up with stuff, right? We need to get that new pair of shoes. Maybe I need to get my nails done. Maybe I need to da 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 da. And all of that comes at a cost to us. And guess what? Capitalism and big corporations have known this forever. And that's why marketing is a thing. That's why psychology and marketing is a thing, because they figure out what you want and they try to sell that to you in a little package that you can purchase over and over again. So, where do we go from here? How do we create something real in our lives that makes us happy more than the quick fix with the shoes? The answer is simple, but not easy. The answer is that you have to choose yourself every day. And when I say you have to choose yourself every day, I'm not talking about that toxic self-care that's like, oh, I'm going to take a bubble bath and then watch 10 episodes of something on the couch and then feeding your depression. No, what I'm talking about in choosing yourself is deciding who you want to be and then working towards being them. So just play along with me for a little second. So there's this thing called quantum physics, right? And I want you to think about things this way. If you have kids and you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So it's kind of like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So quantum physics says that there's all these different timelines that are running concurrently, but we're living in this one. So if there's a timeline where I'm a successful businesswoman and I have a Ferrari, if there's a timeline where I'm a farmer and I raise sheep, if there's a timeline in which I make my own jewelry and sell it on Etsy, you see where I'm going? We have all of these options open to us and available to us. But somehow we and our brains are like, oh no, but society says I should do this. But really, quantum physics says if you can think it, it is possible for you. And that's when people talk about like timeline jumping and that sort of thing, that's what they're talking about. How can you become a whole different person? And it's not that you're becoming a whole different person, it's you're getting back to the person that you always were and the person you're choosing to be right now. Okay. So rather than the toxic self care, what I want you to do instead of that, how about journal? How about sit in silence? How about take a few minutes to go for a walk? No headphones. Why would you do this? Because guess what? Everybody has their own intuition. Everybody has their gut knowing. Everybody has that sense of what you really want to do in their life. And some people call it tapping into your higher self. Some people call it just listening to your gut, listening to your intuition. But that is the one thing that you can do that's more precious than buying new shoes or buying yourself a new car or whatever, is listening to your intuition, because your intuition is never wrong. And I know that there's a lot of women out there. I know because I talk with them. And especially since starting this podcast, women have been reaching out to me and telling me how they became the villain in their lives by standing up for themselves and how they want to change and they want to be happy and not have to worry about what other people think. Well, now it's time for you to play a little bit. Now it's time for you to sit in the possibilities of what's possible for you. What do you really want to do? Like, I'll just give you an example. So let's say you've been in a toxic relationship for a while and your husband always told you, no, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Then you stop dreaming about X, Y, and Z. But maybe you want to do something completely wild with your life. Maybe you want to buy I don't know, a van and travel the country. This ability to dream is really special. It's not just your imagination. You're also thinking of possibilities. You're also telling God, hey, it would be fun. This thing would be fun over here, and this thing would be fun over here. So that way, your focus that maybe has been on good job, check, buy a house, check, nice car, check. All of those things that we were told to focus on, your focus is now out here in the world of possibilities. So rather than, again, buy the shoes, you can choose to live in the world of possibilities. So this sounds really abstract, but let me give you one practical example of how to do this. So getting back to the quantum physics example, you have done amazing things, my friend, not just here, but in the quantum field. So you can choose to do anything that you want to do that's in the quantum field. So here is how I think of things. There's a version of me that's not the me right now, but is what I call my higher self. This is like the me of my highest potential, right? And she does amazing things. And she has chosen to do crazy, wild, outlandish things with her life, right? And when I try to tap into that person, that's when interesting things happen. Okay. So, how do you tap into this highest version of you? Wake up in the morning and think, what would she wear? What would the version of me who is happy and doesn't give a damn what anybody else think of me, what would she wear? What would she do with this precious day? What would be the most fun to her? That is going to open up a whole world of dreaming to you. And I remember when I first experienced really being in my villain era, I had, and you can hear about this on another episode. In a nutshell, what happened was a group of people that I've been close to for a long time decided that I was out and they ghosted me. And this led me down a path of realizing that they have been talking about me and thought that I was the bad guy for a very long time. And it was so painful. And I cared that they thought I was the bad guy. In the pit of my stomach, I felt sick. And what I think is really interesting is really, if you are living your life by your gut, if you are living your life and speaking your truth, should we really care what other people think of us? I vote no. Because if you're really living your life authentically, then you're happy with the decisions that you've made. Rather than living your life thinking, I need to show up as this person, rather than thinking, I need to make these decisions to follow what everybody else is doing. I need to dress like everybody else is dressing. I need to do this. I need to do that. No, you don't. You get to choose. So what I like to do is spend some time with the highest version of me and say, okay, girl, what would we do today? And I have to just be honest with you. I woke up today and I was like, the heck am I doing with my life? And I just had to tell myself, girl, get the heck up, make yourself breakfast, regulate that blood sugar, do your hair. We're going to do some amazing things. And so that's why I'm telling you that having a different life is possible. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. 2 years ago, I would have sat and moped in that energy for a while, but not today. So I'm going to invite you today to take a couple minutes. Maybe it's journaling, meditating, walk outside with no headphones on, which is really hard for people, and just dream. Just dream. Then what I want you to do is ask for guidance. If you are at the point in time where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know, especially if you've been labeled as a villain, you wonder if you should go beg for forgiveness. The answer is always no, by the way. You should not go ask for forgiveness once you've been labeled the villain because you probably didn't even do anything to begin with, did you? Maybe speak your mind. First Amendment. So take some time by yourself. It's in the silence that we hear the answer. And I personally invite my angels, guides, God to provide guidance to me at this time. And you don't even have to say anything out loud. You could just say, I could use some help. I could use some feedback. I need some guidance. That's all you need to say because we are all divinely supported, right? So take a couple minutes and just listen to the guidance that's being provided to you. Okay. We are also distracted with headphones on and watching this and that and listening to this that we can't hear what our inner self, what the highest version of ourselves, our angels, guides, or even our bodies are telling us because we're so distracted all the time. So you have to cultivate that time. So I'm going to invite you today to spend some time with yourself and really ask yourself some hard questions. Most of the women that I've been talking to about this topic, and since I started this podcast, women have been reaching out to me. They've been saying, I'm not the only one that went through this. They've been saying, this just happened and I was labeled the villain. What do I do now? Think of me as your mentor for this next act. Okay. Because we are still here. We're still kicking. Like there's a lot of life left to live, even if it doesn't include certain people that have been in our lives for a long time. You could still have happiness. You could still have joy. You can still have a deep, fulfilling life. But we have to do a couple things. So ask yourself if you are buying the shoes to fill a hole in you. Ask yourself what the hole is. Why do I need the shoes? If you need the shoes to look perfect for an event, why do you need to look perfect? I mean, just keep asking yourself why. And if I would have done this years ago, what I would have discovered is that I have had a really deep seated need to be perfect. Well, why? Right? That is what brings you peace because you find out why did I need to be perfect? Because, and this was the answer for me, I felt I wouldn't be loved and accepted as I am now. And once you let go of that, that is some amazing stuff that if I could bottle it, I would make millions of dollars because it's letting go of the limiting belief that you never thought you even had to begin with. So, as you're going along your journey, I would ask yourself, why do you need the new shoes to begin with? How does my higher self want to spend her time? Would she have purchased a 16th pair of new shoes this month? And what is really going to fill that hole? For me, what was going to fill that hole deep down in the pit of my stomach? Genuine friendships, people who think I'm awesome. And what's so interesting about that is because when I was working in a full-time finance job, I shopped way more than I do now. And I really do think part of that is that I was in a job that I thought was so soul-sucking that I thought I could get a little bit of happiness from that purchase, that hit of dopamine. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I know and I understand that what brings me real happiness is doing something aligned with my soul purpose to begin with. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. You don't need another pair of shoes. You don't need another whatever you think you need. You don't need that fancy blowout or the fancy car. You are fantastic as you are. I think that rhymed. The answers that we're seeking from material possessions are that's not the answer. The answer isn't here. The answer is in you. And you will start to find that you will find the answers to why you are unhappy when you start doing this kind of work. But I'm just going to give you a little warning because when you start to get into this kind of work and figure out what really your soul is telling you, and figure out what do I even want to do here when you are answering the questions to why you have felt empty, life will change and it will change for the better. They'll generally change drastically. And so buckle up because things are going to get fantastic. You can only benefit from trying to align yourself with what your soul is telling you and what God is telling you to do. And so I want to encourage you guys today. Try one of the things I talked about today. Try sitting in silence. Try walking without headphones. Let me know in the comments below what comes up for you and how you felt after this exercise. Did you still want to buy a new pair of shoes? All right, friends, I am Victoria. I'm your mentor for the second act of your life, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.